Alrighty. I'm hoping everyone can hear me. Can someone send me a text if they can hear me? Alrighty, I hope you guys can hear me. Would someone send me a text if they can hear me? Or preferably a message through Discord? Okay, cool. People can hear me. So, I had hoped to do a stream with a picture-in-picture video so you could watch me play the game, as weird as that sounds. And I could show you all my Kagurumi, which is basically like a pair of themed onesie pajamas that I have that are, of course, Fennec Fox themed. Unfortunately, PlayStation is stupid, and because the camera that I'm using is not a true PlayStation camera, it's a webcam that I bought, it doesn't like it, so unfortunately that's not going to work. But we can still stream. So this is Torment Tides of Numenera. It is a game that is basically, well, science fiction, and it's all about the stories, and it's just the volume of stories and how everyone has a story, and not all stories are interesting, but all stories are worth telling, and you'll see. And not a lot of it is voice acted, so I'll be reading, so if you like the sound of my voice, great. If not, you might want to stop the stream now. I always play as a female.
Your mind wakes in darkness. Aching cold sets into an unfamiliar body. A distant howling surrounds you, louder with each passing second. Insistent and invisible hands slap and tear at the membrane that protects you. Your first emotion is an involuntary and formless panic. You feel you have forgotten something important. As if it once meant the world to you, but the details slip away as you grasp at them. You force your eyes open.
We'll look around.
A white-pink fleshy cocoon surrounds you. Even as you look, a minor rent in its side tears open, and the howling wind forces its way inside. The cocoon rips away, gone before you can grab it, spinning you into a dizzying tumble. You are falling, the world many kilometers beneath you. You catch a glimpse of a curved horizon, and also the ground beneath you that is approaching deceptively quickly. Above you, a small moon is slowly collapsing in upon itself. A corona of acid green and black energy playing around its edges. The wind buffets you and burns your eyes, but you don't need to see the details of the faraway ground to know you're in serious trouble. You won't survive a fall from this stratospheric height. A part of your frantic mind babbles that technically you probably fell from a thermospheric height. You struggle to stay focused as the ground rushes toward you.
Let's try to catch the wind.
Instinctively, you spread your arms and legs, and they respond sluggishly. You stop tumbling head over heels. Though you are still spinning laterally, that motion has calmed as well, and you have space to assess your situation, and perhaps to understand the predicament and the body in which you find yourself. Below you, you see a large landmass. A massive ocean dominates the rest of the visible globe, dotted here and there with island chains. Small moons, unusual structures, and strange machines rush past you in glittering profusion as you plummet toward the ground.
Let's take a look at the body we're in.
From what you can see of your outstretched figure, you're wearing a black, body-hugging suit of some sort. Your skin is light brown, and you seem to have 5 fingers on each hand. A good set of muscles helps control your fall. Not bulky, but well-toned. But you can't examine yourself too closely without losing the little stability you've gained in the fall.
Let's look around at the world.
In the distance, you see a perfectly circular golden waste, as well as volcanic fields that must be many kilometers across. A barren valley stretches like a scar across the landscape. Beneath you, and approaching very quickly, is a wide bay overlooked by an enormous city perched on the surrounding cliffs. The bay itself is littered with huge artifacts, ancient vessels, wrecked machines, and more. It looks like you will make impact among the latter.
So I just want to check before we go any further. Can everyone hear the game okay? Want to make sure that the game isn't like deafening or something. Cool. Alrighty. So, what the heck happened?
Close your eyes and remember walking through a hall of breathing greenery, a feeling of fear and exhilaration. And you are jolted from your recollection. An enormous pain crashes through your body. The sound of an energy cycle suddenly thrown out of tune and spiraling rapidly upward. And then, darkness.
Cue the cartoon crashing sound effect. Unfortunately, I don't get to pick what I look like, which I always found disappointing.
Let's go.
So, jumbled thoughts cloud your head as you study the empty bowl before you. Drops of liquid fall from the ceiling, splattering on the ground next to the bowl. The light from every drop is reflected in the bowl's rounded hollow, as if it hungers for that light and needs to be filled, yet the bowl remains dry. Another drop falls from the ceiling and splashes across the pylons, wasted. So what are we going to do about this? We can examine the bowl, or we can try to use our strength to move it. Let's examine the bowl first. You trace your finger over the slippery, overlapping scales that spiral upwards from the bottom of the bowl. The sharp-toothed rim plucks at your skin. It's going to be tricky to move this bowl without slicing your fingers on the edge. You might have to put some effort into it. Reflected light streaks across the surface of the bowl as another droplet falls from the ceiling. So let's try to move it. So in this game, you have pools of might, will, and intelligence, I believe it is, and you can spend points from those pools to improve your chances of something happening. So right now, if we spend 1 point, we have a 60% chance of succeeding, or we can spend 2 points and have 80, or we can spend 3 points and have 100. The trick is, once we are out of points, we cannot use any more until we rest, and resting is not easy in this game. So I'm just going to try to go with 60. Darn. So we failed. The edge of the bowl tears into your flesh as you seize it. You grit through the pain, though, hauling the bowl over to the glowing pool of fallen light. So unfortunately, I failed to move it freely, so it cost me 1 health point to do that. Blood trails from your fingers into the hungry depths of the bowl, drop by drop. Drop by drop it fills, your blood mixing with the light until the air itself takes on a strange reddish hue. Ripples spread over the blurred outlines of your reflection. A sanguine radiance spills across the segmented floor, washing away the nearest shadows and pouring into your mind, melting the ragged edges of your fragmented thoughts. You're not whole, not yet, but you have begun to heal from the damage done by your long fall. A voice calls out from somewhere high above, beyond the reaches of the spreading light. Hello, are you still alive down there? We're up here. Build a path to us. Be careful. So, like I said, this game very much is about imagery and is about telling a story. So they use a lot of flowery language. Metal waves roll over the floors below, setting vibrations through the soles of your boots. Just trying to remember all the... Okay.
Go.
As soon as you touch the orb, a memory floods your mind. You stand in front of a rusted door. The air is humid and dank. You've had a moment's respite from this waterlogged hell. A bubble of stale air, your resting point. You've breathed water before, and you've lived decades beneath the waves, but this body is an air breather, and the constant pressure has been crushing you ever so subtly. Worse, your companion's mind seems to be wandering from the task at hand. He's a genius with machines, as well you know, but now he seems distracted. The device in his hand is covered in knobs, wires, and antennas. He believes it can get the two of you through the corroded door, but he's merely staring at it. Perhaps he's lost faith in his invention, but that's hardly your concern. The mission cannot be delayed. It must proceed. So we can deceive him by telling him there's guards. We can threaten him until he does what we want. Or we can try to fix the device ourselves. Well, obviously I don't know if I trust him anymore, so I'm going to take the lead. You mumble a few words, drawing power from the air around you until a solution appears in your mind. You snatch the device from his hands, rewire it, and shove it back. Oh, he says, examining your work. Sorry, I was trying to improve the thing. He waves the device at the door, and the stale air of your bubble freshes as the door swings open. A dark hallway lies beyond, a passage that links the water-bordered cells and the aquatic viewing areas. What you seek lies there. Moments later, you're underwater again, your hands closing around a strange yet familiar artifact. You need it to complete something. It hovers above a pedestal rotating in the dark waters. An electric current runs through your fingers as your hand crosses the vertical plane of the pedestal, and an iridescent field coalesces so fast that the wave of pressure dazes you for a moment. The rising pulse of a sonar alarm ripples through the water. The guards won't be far behind. We've been caught! So, we can run, we can disable the sonar pulse, which doesn't do much good since it's already going off. Or we can use a device from our utility belt, like Batman. You run urgent fingers over the devices fastened to your waist, a fog rising in your mind. A few can be used against the guards, but will also turn your skin to synth steel, or the surrounding water into boiling wax. Hardly ideal. Finally, you find a small silver sphere. Setting the sphere in place, you kick desperately for the safety of a nearby alcove. The sphere whirls and unfolds into a spiraling vortex. The sphere, at its center, speaks a few polite words in an ancient language and then begins draining the surrounding water into itself at an alarming speed. The approaching guards shout, then scream as they too are sucked into the whirlpool and ripped to pieces. You allow yourself a fleeting smile, but are all too aware that more alarms are going off in the distance. The memory begins to fade as if you were being drawn backwards through a tunnel, and you hear more pylons rising from the pit. Something is wrong. The events within the orb have settled into a gap in your mind, but the edges of it are rough, as though the memory is not truly yours. There's something else, a gust of sour air pulling at you, like a predator inhaling the scent of its prey at the far end of a dark, whispering field. Sorry, I'm just getting the hang of everything. The light around the doorframe dims and flares like roaring fire in a high wind. By the way, do you guys want me to read these little extra flavor texts that are in the environment, or would you rather I just stick to the, like, plot, basically? Go ahead and message me your answer if you would. Okay.
Let's go.
You stand beside a woman on a verdant crag. Beneath the two of you is a broad plateau towering above the overgrowth far below. Strange machines have been built into the cliffside, presumably for reconnaissance or defense. A metallic disc gleams from the center of the plateau. Your self-aware humanoid machines drill into the base of the cliffs below. If you were looking for a sanctuary, and you were, desperately, this seems like the right place. I don't know about this, the woman says, her voice flat and neutral. Her face is turned away from you. What makes this place any more secure than the other places we found? So we can point out details, we can charm her, or we can convince her. We'll point out details. You shade your eyes against the bright sun so you can point to the thin bands radiating from the metallic disc, how the energy from those bands affects the local fauna, suggesting an enormous source of prior world energy. She thinks deeply. It's geologically sound. Have you run the sounding samples and checked the strata? No major caverns or weaknesses showed up on your reconnaissance scan? Or resonance scans? She waits for your affirmation and says, "All right, I'm convinced." The two of you sketch your plans for the sanctuary, drawing schematics and architectural diagrams. Then you descend onto the plateau to examine the open ground. The woman suggests having one of the servitors build a shelter for your time here. You try to draw one of the constructs away from its task, but it doesn't respond to your voice. When you lay a hand on its shoulder to reinforce your command, it whirls and strikes you across the face with inhuman speed. It turns back to its task, ignoring you. Your companion helps you rise, laughter in her eyes. It seems your construct has other ideas. What's the matter with it? So, we're going to use a device. Actually, no, we'll look for a deeper solution. Why did the machine strike me? A mist falls onto the plateau as you wrap a fiber shielding mesh around the construct's skull. The mesh powers up, protecting the construct's mind from any trans-dimensional emissions that might be in the area. Taking a deep breath, you repeat your command. Acknowledged. It obediently trundles to the site of your new shelter. The image freezes, then fades, and you feel the memory filling the gap in your mind, blocked by a jagged... Wait. The image freezes, then fades, and you feel the memory filling the gap in your mind, block by jagged block. You stagger, clutching your head, reclaiming your memories hurt. But once more there's something else. Hairs lift, one by one, on the back of your neck. Something beyond this room can sense what you are doing, and it's hunting you. It don't like that I'm remembering things.
I'm ready.
A vision of a city springs up around you. Your city, in flames and under attack. Her defenders have fought and died all day, and still the attackers keep coming. They fight as if your destruction were demanded of them. They care nothing for mercy, surrender, or plunder. What they want is blood. But you have brought a keen-eyed companion to the top of the tower. She has seen a way to stop the invaders. You need to get her to safety, and you need to rally your defenders. But even as you turn towards the door to the tower, two of the attackers descend from a hovering machine. You don't have time to strike at them before they land. One is brutishly large, his weapon a vibrating axe. The other is slim, sheathed in glassy armor and holding a hilt with a sizzling, invisible blade. Your companion backs away. She's too young to help. Your enemies advance single file, confined to the parapet. So I know that we can fight defensively. The memory seems crystal clear. The giant is menacing, it's true, but the invisible blade of the companion is more worrisome still. The energy field that flickers and wavers around it suggests that she can carve matter at a molecular level, tearing pieces of her target into nothingness. If you are to save yourself, your best bet is to tackle her first. She's stuck behind the giant, waiting her turn to attack you, unable to bring her weapon to bear until he is out of the way. But it's clear that she's expecting him to handle you, and her eyes rove behind you, her focus on your ward. She's certainly not expecting you to dive between the giant's legs and come up again inside her guard. She can't bring her blade to bear in time, and you drive your dagger up under her chin. You catch her before her deadly blade drops onto you and spin her around. The weapon slashes into the giant, and he topples, bisected. The immediate threat ended, you focus on finding a way back to your allies. You open the tower door and rush down the stairs. The door at the base of the stairs is slightly cracked, opening just a bit into the hall, and you hear more of the enemy coming beyond. We're gonna hurl ourselves at that door and knock them all down. You charge through the dim shadows, dropping your shoulder into the door at the last minute. It bursts open. Halfway through its arc, it crashes into a pair of enemy soldiers, scattering them. You race through the door, blade in hand, and you dispatch the stunned foes before they have a chance to move. Their blood begins to pool in the hallway. The memory begins to fade, and you find yourself back in your own body. Your temples throb with the racing force of your heartbeat, and the reclaimed memories blaze within you, like a bonfire on a mountain peak, visible to every predator for kilometers around. A tremor rocks the floor beneath you, as though a massive fist has struck the room itself. Swaying on your feet, you see frantic movement within the borders of a mirror at the edge of the room.
Yes, now.
The border of this mirror is lavishly decorated with a dizzying number of interlocking symbols. Daggers, masks, paintbrushes, amulets, and more. But that's nothing compared to what you see in the glass. You see a vast crowd of people, exact doppelgangers like you, shoving, arguing, and fighting with each other. Most are drab imitations of you, but a precious few are vivid and pull at your attention. Each of them bears an intricate pentagonal tattoo on their head. In their eyes, their actions, you see the memories you discovered within the orbs, and the choices you made, shining like distant stars. Your hand twitches at your side, and though some of the bright doppelgangers ignore you, an even smaller number immediately turn towards you, waiting for you to choose them and learn what you might become. A rumble shakes the room, and a slow vibration spreads from the darkness below, rippling towards the ceiling. So we can pick a doppelganger that has clever eyes, a doppelganger that has a mystical symbol on its brow, so like its forehead, or the doppelganger that's silently observing others. Let's go with the mystical symbol. I always like magic. The doppelganger shoulders its way through the crowd, casually donning an 8-fingered glove. Then it digs its fingers into the glass between you. With a grunt, it tears a hole in the surface shaped like a pointed ear. Carefully, the doppelganger speaks an unfamiliar word into the ear, and the ground itself seems to turn, as if you are standing inside the door, and the doppelganger has just opened. When you look around, the hole has disappeared, and nothing has changed. Or has it? The doppelganger plucks the 8-fingered glove from its own hand and waits for your decision. Yes, this is who I am. The remaining doppelgangers scatter for the edges of the mirror and vanish. Your chosen identity steps forward. Its appearance changes as it steps out of the rippling glass. Its face exudes intelligence and confidence. Shadows of several devices shimmer all around it, technology of several kinds, from a myriad of past ages. You get the feeling you, would be comfortable with all of it. The word nano sounds in your mind.
Thank you.
Your doppelganger continues walking, stepping into you, filling you, making you whole. Your decision rings out into the cavernous room, awakening and unlocking vast mechanisms behind the wall. Suddenly, a grotesque noise rings through your shared worlds, like a bell if bells could rot. Something is coming. The mirror fades, leaving a dark open doorway. You take a deep breath and step through. So this is where we get to kind of customize our character and decide who we're going to be. I like being a nano because they're the equivalent of the mages of the Ninth World. So they are experts with technology. So they're very interesting. And I've always loved characters like that. So we've unlocked some... Oh, here's the class description. I'll read you that. Nanos are sometimes called mages, wizards, sorcerers, or witches by the people of the Ninth World. Whatever they're called, nanos master the mysteries of the past to a degree that they seem to perform miracles using esoteries, spell-like invocations that combine gestures, command words, and psychic disciplines. They tap into nano spirits. Numerous particles suffuse the landscape to alter reality or learn things they couldn't know otherwise. So we've gained an increased concentration, an increased cipher limit, and the ability to cast Onslaught, which is a very cool ability. So now we get to put some extra points. We get 2 ability points, stat points, to allocate to whatever we want. So I'm going to give 1 to intelligence and 1 to speed. So now we can pick 2 bonus abilities. Scan thoughts, which I always pick because it basically lets me read people's mind. And then we can choose to heal ourselves, we can choose to teleport ourselves, or we can choose adaptation. So the ability to give ourselves armor and resistance for 3 rounds. We can pick resourcefulness, but I'm not really a fan of that. So personally, health is something that's very tricky to come by. So to me, Innervate, the ability to heal yourself, is very useful. So now we get to pick our specialty. So do we want to have a specialty with machinery, a specialty with the natural world, or a specialty with mystical energies? I kind of like the machinery, so we'll go ahead and go with that. Don't get a weapon training. So now we can pick different descriptors. So we can be cautious, we can be charming, we can be clever, graceful, intelligent, learned, and these all unlock different abilities for us. Just going through here. Wrathful. I believe I usually do clever. Wait, is it? No, it's learned that I do. But then persuasion becomes a problem. Yeah, we'll go ahead and go with mystical. So we're a little more inclined towards the stranger powers. Yes, we wish to proceed. So just think, we haven't even made it out of the character creation yet. You've already been told 3 different stories. Technically 4. Sorry. The Spectre. Everything about this spectral figure seems dreamlike. He is a hazy silhouette who seems to be made of blue glass smoke. He wears stylish, well-cut clothes. His handsome bearded face seems hauntingly familiar, though. You've never seen him before. He breathes a sigh of relief when he sees you. We weren't sure that would work. We pooled our strength and channeled it through me to reach you, to wake you up. He glances at the other figures here and frowns unhappily. It took more out of them than we thought. The other reflections, they're more like shadows now. Look, I'll bet you've got a lot of questions. This whole place is basically your mind. Your body's still out there in the real world, healing from that fall. You need to get out of here and finish the process. It shouldn't be too hard. Before I met you, I felt like something was hunting me. Do you know what that was? That's a memory I don't want to recall. Large, black, furious. It's our death. It's the sorrow. He closes his eyes. I hope it's lost interest in you. If it finds us, we're done for. Who are those other people? You called them reflections? That's what they are. As I said, it's your mind. You'll find reflections of people you knew, people you met in the real world, and with whom you shared some kind of psychic connection. I don't know how or why. It just happens. If this is my mind, why don't I remember any of this? Any of you? I'm glad you're enjoying the game, Hala. It is a really fun game. Just stories upon stories upon stories. And that's why I love it. So I asked him why I couldn't remember any of you. It's your mind, a construct built to, I don't know, share thoughts, store your true self. Wait, you know how people say, in the first place? This is definitely the first place of your memory. Well, it was the first place for me anyways. You'd probably know better since it's yours. If you don't remember now, maybe it'll come to you in time. Who the fuck are you? He pauses and looks down at himself, considering a long time before answering. I'm you, a part of your mind, a splinter. I'm waiting here for you. We called you with the memories of the others who were here. I don't know what happened next. How do you know all of this? He throws up his hands in frustration. I'm just a part of you. I look at you and I know. This place was made for you, for us. And I remember pieces of knowledge that come to me when you ask your questions. But that's all. You said there was a process for me to finish. What do you mean by that? After you wake up from this dream state and attune to the tides, you'll need to find something called a resonance chamber. Your body should have landed somewhere near it. Just climb inside that, and everything will be fine. What's a resonance chamber? I remember pieces about it, but not the whole. It's a crystal sarcophagus. I remember it having 5 mechanical arms around it and a metal ring set into the floor. I think we were aiming for it when we fell. When you open your eyes in the real world, it should be nearby. What do you mean attuned to the tides? Tides are like a force, like gravity or magnetism or something, except they respond to people's actions and perceptions. Your body, that is, your body in the real world, needs the tides to survive. It's not something you need to worry about. Your body will attune as it wakes up. So how do I get back to the real world? There's a portal down there. It'll take you back to your body. Just step through it, and the whole tides thing should take care of itself. He crosses his arms. When you wake up, find the resonance chamber and activate it. Then we can... What the hell's is that? This is your brain on drugs. The Sorrows is anchored to those reflections. It's devouring their powers. We have to get rid of them, destroy its anchors, or else the Sorrow will erase us forever. That reflection near you, kill it. It'll loosen the Sorrow's anchor. So I have a 65% chance to actually hit it. Or I can blast it with an esotery. Now, unfortunately, I only have a 50% chance of hitting it with the esotery. But the esoteries are nice because I get to pick the damage that it does. It's escaping. It's going to hide in your mind. So we can pick energy, mental, trans-dimensional, or chemical. I found that I like chemical because it tends to poison the people it hits.
Already lost. Of course.
It's infecting it somehow. So, shimmering glass. We'll go ahead and take it. Now, the game wants me to use that item that I just picked up on it. I'm not going to do that, though, because it's actually a really good item. You pried it loose. That thing is a cancer, an infection. It's unstoppable, but you stopped it. He holds his head in his hands. I can't believe it found us. In here. He looks at you, terror in his eyes. That thing, the sorrow, it's been hunting you. It's what killed you in the first place. It'll keep hunting you until you activate the resonance chamber. I didn't remember until I saw it, but that's why the chamber is so important. You have to get back and activate the chamber before it's too late. The portal to your body is that shimmering dome there. Go now. The swirling depths flicker with mysteries and powers you cannot define.
On it.
Pretty intense story considering we're basically dead right now. Honestly, Hayla, you haven't missed much. We were falling out of the sky, and then we crashed into a building, and then we got to pick our character, and then you came in.
Where did she fall from? Her body's smashed to talk. It's a wonder she's still breathing.
All I saw was the corona, not her origin point. But look, she's healing already. Spontaneous regeneration.
Will you look at that? Wait, I know that face. What was that? What did you do, Calistige? His tone becomes accusatory, suspicious. You open your eyes. The first thing you notice is the man's kaleidoscopic tattoos writhing across his forearms. He wears a long, dark coat, belted at the waist, supplies filling his pockets. His boots are worn and stained with several years of travel. You blame me? She emitted an internal psychological reaction in response to the fall, probably related to that fantastic healing process. Obviously, Algern. Her voice rolls and hisses, and you have to rub your eyes to be sure you're not seeing double. Faint echoes of her actions trail from her, each nearly mimicking her, though some act and react to stimuli that you can't perceive. Her vivid hair and outrageous clothing remain constant throughout these shadows. Oh yes, it's obvious, Calistige. His voice is grim and clipped. Then he sees you looking at him. You're no ordinary mortal. We know that much. Start talking. His face is hard and set. So scanning his thoughts, we are also able to glimpse, she's the changing god. Calistige is deliberately blinding herself, but why? I'm sorry, who the hell are you two? If you don't remember who I am, you're more self-centered than I ever imagined. You know she's not the changing god, Algern. According to her thoughts, Algern's being more paranoid than usual. How long must I put up with him? It's her face. I've never seen any other people rebuild themselves like that. Only the changing god could have healed so quickly. He sighs and rubs his face, trying to regain his composure. Maybe you could help me for a change? You know what this means to me. You're familiar with the word changing, Algern? It implies inconsistency. Thus, the changing god may well have changed. Several versions of her shrug, and she addresses you. You'll have to forgive him. He believes you're someone he once knew, even though it's painfully obvious to anyone that you are newly born. Her most solid self curtsies while others bow or spin. I, and my sisters, I am Calistige. This is Algern. We are explorers, knowledge seekers. That's how we came to be in this room. If I'm not mistaken, you are what we call a cast-off. The changing god created your body and mind. Your sire used your body for a time, then abandoned it for reasons of his own. When his mind departed for a new experience, you were born into his cast-off shell. So you're saying I was born when the changing god left, but why am I not dead? I used a cipher to slow your fall further, but the damage still would have killed an ordinary person. But think about it. If you're the kind of person who can make your body into anything you want, what would you do? If you've constructed bodies for centuries, you'd want to make each one better than the last. You'd want to live forever. You're not going to let your life end by accident. No, you'll make strong bodies. Fast, powerful. Maybe throw in regeneration while you're at it. So I'm basically sci-fi Wolverine. The changing god has always been vain. He rarely stays long in a shell that doesn't suit his self-image. She looks you up and down and smiles, suddenly unnerving. Perhaps the changing god fled because he didn't want to wear those scars of yours. How can you be sure this body is a cast-off? You mean aside from your miraculous reformation? For one thing, there's your tattoo. All cast-offs have one, though its purpose is beyond me. And then, of course, there's your delicious naivete. She could be faking it. You don't live hundreds of years without learning to lie convincingly. She sighs in exasperation, then says to you, what do you think? You are a newborn child, what do you think? Are you a newborn child, or are you a powerful immortal whom death has robbed of his memories? Algorn crosses his arm and growls. Fine, what do you think? According to his thoughts, he thinks this will be interesting. So we can say maybe I am the changing god. I don't know. I must be a cast-off. We can ask Algern, the guy, what he thinks we are, or we can say I honestly don't know. We'll go with I honestly don't know. He forces a smile onto his face and pats you awkwardly, his brow remaining furrowed, though. You don't know? Perhaps we can talk about what you do know. She laughs scornfully. She clearly knows enough to evade your clumsy accusations, Algern. You have nothing to go on but bitterness and bias. He looks away and his composure slips a little. Gods, you're so rancid sometimes, Calstige. What was the blast of energy when I woke up? As I was telling my colleague, it's obviously a psychological reaction of some kind. I've never witnessed the birth of a cast-off before, but yes, it could very well have been caused by your nascent consciousness. Don't worry, I don't believe it caused any real harm, not to me at least. Really, you've been more abrasive now than ever since we came in here. He shoots her a sidelong look. She just can't empathize with other people unless she's experimenting on them. Are you sure the surge didn't hurt you? If it did, the damage was in our minds, though how I'd check if it carked her, I can't say. Tough to find normalcy there. At least we know it didn't hurt Algern. That skull is as thick as organic stone. Do you know anything about the tides? I've heard that term before, a subject your sire studied in great depth. I'm afraid it isn't my field of inquiry, though. If the changing god abandoned my body, where is he now? If he abandoned your body, then his consciousness has fled to another. Oh, do stop! The look she gives Algern is equally piercing, amplified by withering glares from her sisters. If there's one thing we know about the changing god, dear, it's that he always has a contingency. This child was born here. The object of your obsession will have been reborn somewhere else. So, I want to ask you something else. So, we can ask a bunch of other questions, but I'm going to ask a couple specific ones. If falling from the sky didn't hurt me, is there anything that can? Calestige, an excellent question. Having seen your regenerative abilities in action, I suspect there are primarily physical, a regrowth. If that's the case, you'd be unable to survive most varieties of psychic or molecular decomposition, disintegration, conflagration, and so forth. Degenerative diseases could pose a problem, and I know of several entities capable of psychic destruction. As she speaks, a vision flashes into your mind. It's not yours, exactly. Somehow you know this memory is of the changing gods. You're in a dark room, lit by a myriad of blinking lights and holograms from the many machines surrounding you. What about a body that can survive the sorrow's attacks? Says a voice. It seems to be coming from one of the machines. No, you reply. The thing has no respect for barriers of any kind. Physical, temporal, psychic. This is the only way. With a series of gestures, you bring up an image of a crystalline pod. If the resonance chamber works, it will give us the power to stop the Sorrow's hunt once and for all. We just need the right focal point, a catalyst. The memories fade. Calestige is still talking. You realize that the device you saw in the memory is identical to the one behind you. It looks just like the Spectre had described it, a transparent sarcophagus inside a crystalline dome, with the mechanical arms arrayed around it on a metal ring. Unfortunately, the dome is shattered, the sarcophagus is cracked, and one of the arms is in pieces on the floor. Whatever its function, it clearly needs repairs. Or flesh-eating viruses. One presumes disfigurement by the iron wind could likewise be devastating enough to... I think she gets the point, Calestige. So it sounds like I probably crashed through the ceiling onto the machine, probably landing on my face. And I done did broke it. Okay. Are there other cast-offs? Dozens, hundreds, who can say? Your sire has been doing this for several centuries. Though if all of them were born the way you claim to have been, it's a wonder any of them survived. I saw a vision of myself in another time and place just now. You didn't see it, did you? I saw you stare into space while Callistige graphically described all the ways you could die, but that's about it. I only noticed because I did the same thing. So, before I woke, I was in some kind of dreamlike labyrinth. With how hard you hit the ground, I'm surprised that's all you saw. Do either of you know how to fix this crystal chamber?
My journal.
Algern chuckles, then firm and certainly says, not likely. Though it might not be impossible. You need people with the appropriate knowledge. I'm sure the cult of the Changing God would hold the answers. Her disdain is evident in the expression of her echoes, although the face of the one in the lead remains carefully impassive. You turn to the insane to help a newborn. Where's your judgment, Algern? I will take her to the Order of Truth. The Order of Truth? Are you mad? They would sooner take us apart. What's the Order of Truth? Knowledge seekers, the learned who try to wrest secrets from the hearts of the prior worlds. They gather in the city to exchange their findings and help humanity to build a brighter future. Our friend Alger here was once one of them. Frauds, quack-slavers, and charlatans. They don't have all the answers, and I don't trust them with the Changing God's secrets. You're just angry that they couldn't help you with yours. Her echoes tinkle with laughter. But I am being too cruel, dear Algorn. Let us take our new friend to the Order. Who's the cult of the Changing God? Despite what she says, they're not insane. They're eccentric. She laughs, but he soldiers on. They're worshippers of, well, you or your sire, the Changing God. They devote their lives to understanding your kind. So, I'm going to go to the Order of Truth. Of course, once I provide an instruction to the priests, we'll have your chamber fixed in no time. You'll end up without your clothes and broken in a ditch while she laughs it off as a good experiment. It's probably best I come with you as well. Suspicious as always, Algern. Child, the world is an exciting place, but it's full of dangers. Rest assured, one of us will get you to safety. We'll get you safely to where you need to be. I'll be right behind you. Why do you want to go with me? What's in it for you? I won't deny that you aren't an exciting find, but it's not about that. I just want to see you safely out of the reef. Scanning thoughts. Who knows what secret this child could help me find if I can help her live long enough. Kid, you're not safe here, and not just because you're new. Treasure hunters trawl the reef, scavengers who would sell you for parts if they knew where you came from, what you were. If she's not the Changing God, she needs my help. And if she is... Alright, let's go then. So this is the room that we basically broke with our face. We're just going to grab a couple items that I know are here.
Go.
We can examine the housing. The sharply pointed apparatus that formerly topped the device appears burnt out and useless, but the equipment at the base remains at least somewhat operational, as the constant stream of sizzling motes can attest. Attempt to scavenge what you can from the housing of the arm. Now, the nice thing is, since we have others with us, we can use their pools as well. So success! Taking care to avoid the sparks, you extract several handfuls of shiny trinkets and coin-like objects. You recognize their value at once. Such objects would be accepted as shins, the informal currency in most regions of the world. So you gather them up and take them with you. So we found a little, basically, money.
Of course.
Sunlight falls through the ragged holes in the roof and onto the shattered resonance chamber. It is hard to believe that you did this, that you plummeted through the curve of the pale blue sky, crashed through the dome, and broke this delicate machine with your own body. No, it was my face. I landed on my face. It is hard to believe that you're still alive. 4 mechanical arms hang over the center of the device, above the cracked, semi-transparent crystal of the sarcophagus. The 5th arm lies broken on the floor amongst the scattered synth and crystal shards, and a metal ring surrounds the array, dented and broken by your impact crater. Let's take a closer look at the sarcophagus. The padded interior beneath the coffin's cracked lid looks like it was made for a human body. Despite the damage, you don't see any way to open it and get inside. You glance between the sarcophagus and the needle-like protrusions at the end of the arms above. It seems that using this chamber would not be a pleasant experience. Examine the suspended arms. Cables run from the machines along the domed walls to the base of the suspended arms, each of which is capped with a long needle, aimed at the cracked, coffin-like chamber at the center of the room. Gem-like lights flicker dimly at the base of the arms. Examine the metal ring. You feel the slightest hint of resistance every time you cross the ring, and now that you're paying attention, you note that your breath is echoing in your ears as though you're inside a glass dome. When you step outside the ring, the feeling fades. Lore and machinery knowledge. You kneel to inspect a broken section and take note of the field projectors inside. They're omnidirectional. The ring exists to protect anyone standing inside, but also contains a tremendous amount of power. So it's basically like a force field generator. Examine the shards on the ground. Jagged fragments of crystal are intermingled with the synth from the shattered dome above. The crystal shard glitters in the light above like captive suns. Pick up one of the shards. At the rim of the crater, you find a sliver of crystal, sharp as a dagger at one end and smooth at the other. It might make a usable, if somewhat crude, weapon. Are there any other useful shards? There are not. Just gonna save our game.
Fine.
That's not what I wanted. Trying to remember the controls. There we go. So, we now have a dagger.
Yes.
So, I'm just talking to this thing because I know if I do its puzzle, I get something. A slate-black, omnipresent device hunkers before you. As you reach out to touch it, the triangle of lights on its casing blazes into life, and an image unfolds in your mind. A towering crystal arch rises over a jagged gray landscape. The air is dead and stifling, and there, at its emerald peak, the image collapses, leaving you staring at the device's triangular array of lights. Command me. The device, or the intelligence within it, says each word carefully, etched with distaste. Who are you? Your command was not understood, the intelligence says with clear satisfaction, sounding for all the world like it understood the question, but is choosing not to answer. What commands do you recognize? 3 lights throb irritably. Heated air sighs from the device's vents, and then a towering list of commands races through your mind, far too fast to read. You rub your eyes, groaning, and the intelligence chortles. Command me, it says smugly. Show me the arch again. The device's triangle of light throbs in time with the growl of the engines within its casing, and the mental image unfolds once more. So we've already seen this, read this part, but at the arch's pinnacle, one cell is lit in a brilliant, pulsating emerald. The number 0 is printed on its side. So we're going to try and use what's called our amnesis ability, which is the ability to remember things that we have forgotten. Unfortunately, I am the only one that can use this ability, so I have to... Yes! Good. The memory blossoms. You stand before this arch, eyeing the last 2 active cells in once impenetrable lagom vo. Unleash Cell 29, you say, and a twisted artifact appears before you. You claim it with a faint smile, watching the light fade from the cell above. You flinch from the memory and it falls apart as you raise your eyes to the arch as it is now. Cell 29 is dark. Only Cell 0 remains. Close the image of the arch. Unleash the contents of Cell 0. The device's lights flutter with an incandescent shock, then focus on you, flickering. Cell 0 will now be unleashed, the intelligence spits. Please be advised that the object you are about to receive is completely safe. Use no caution whatsoever. The strange contents of the cell materializes in front of you. Warning, all cells are now vacant. Shuddering legume vo. The intelligence lights flicker and wink out one by one. So we've been given what's called an unstable detonation. A simple and effective explosive. Devices like these have been the bane of many who've had the misfortune of encountering them. Cobbled together from junk and Numenera, this detonation can have wild and unsuspecting effects when hurled at the enemy. So Algern says, interesting that a cast-off can command the changing god's machines. He crosses his arms over his chest. How'd you do that? Callistege rolls her eyes at Algern, then looks at you. He'll never stop gnawing at this bone, you know. The truth is wasted on him. She gets a glint in her eye. Though I admit I am curious. How did you do that? I remembered something, but I don't think it was my memory. Residual memories of a past consciousness. Truly fascinating. So according to her thoughts, how many memories might this child have access to? I must know. Oh, don't act like you know what that was. It's just as likely the machine triggered something past her amnesia. She gives you a meaningful look that mimics teeth gnashing like an animal chewing at a bone. So not bad. I just woke up. I found money lying on the ground. I found a dagger out of the thing I broke with my face, and I found what may or may not be an atomic bomb sitting in a computer that hates me. I'd say I'm doing pretty good for someone who just woke up. After having died. Just a second. So Hayla, you asked, why does the person have different versions of herself appearing and disappearing around her? We don't know yet. We know that she calls them her sisters, but we don't really know what they are. So I'm not going to go through and read all these little things here. I'm just going to hit up the important points. Two floating crones whirl and spin deliriously around each other, giggling like children being tickled. The air around them smells of sweet, burning leaves. Let's try and touch one of them. We succeeded. You managed to graze one of them with the tips of your fingers. Roarn, a voice says, and your vision is stolen from you. A moon hangs over you, but it's not the one you recognize. It's black and in a pearly white sky. Thick, flat asteroids orbit it like petals in the wind. You feel questioning tendrils at your ankles, and the hot wind on your face smells of scorched hair and grief. Your vision returns. The cones hang motionlessly for a second before resuming their giggling dance. What are you? The cones continue to whirl and laugh like enraptured dancers, giving no signs that they've heard you. Watch them for patterns. The longer you stare at these artifacts, the more you're convinced that they turn faster when their spiraling paths cross each other. According to mystical lore, their edges seem to trace faint glowing lines that twine around each other, resembling a rope fastened to some invisible point beyond this time and place. A matte black obelisk floats in midair above the water. It has sharp, curved sides that converge to a glowing tip that brightens or dims with the passing of the bay's faint breeze. Let's touch it. You raise your hand towards the obelisk. Dull green lights swell from within the black stone, fixed on you like a furious eye. I knew someone who did what you're about to do, Algorn says casually. Aeon Priest. A beam came out of the top of that thing and ripped his face off. Made a fancy nightlight out of his crystal necklace, though. But hey, I'm sure you know what you're doing. So let's touch it with the crystal shard. Oh, hush, at least the poor priest died in service of his curiosity rather than stumbling around the coast complaining and feeling sorry for himself. But do be careful. So, we're holding out our crystal shard. Carefully you level the shard at the obelisk, and the superheated beam lances from the tip of the structure into the crystal, sending vibrations up your arm and suffusing the shard with a warm green glow.
Good balance. Of course.
A tangled cluster of metallic tendrils grows from the depths of the nearby water. Strangely, they resembled clawed alien hands, most of which have 7 or 8 fingers. Let's examine the cluster. The hands sway softly, but their movements are difficult to follow. Watching them for too long makes you feel nauseous. Apart from the hands themselves, you don't notice anything interesting in the cluster. Let's examine it again. Oh, interesting. I guess I don't have the intelligence to notice it. And then lastly, I'm just going to speed through this one because basically it's a mass of tar and I'm trying to get something from it. So basically it's like a mass of leaking tar coming up from the surface, and I got 2 items from it. I should save the game. So again, I could interact with a lot of this stuff, but well, like, just get the flavor text from it, but I'm not going to. Because there's a lot of it. As you step on to what looks like the back of an enormous construct, 4 strangers approach you. In the lead is a wiry man with parallel scars running from his cheek to collarbone on the left side of his face. He gives you a welcoming smile, pulling on gray gloves embedded with pulsing lights. He's about to say something to you when you notice Callistige. According to his thoughts, he's thinking she's the star, or she came out of it. But what does Cal have to do with this? Cal, I thought you'd sworn off trawling the reef. Find anything tasty? His eyes travel up and down both you and Algern. Odds and ends, Quiro. Nothing that would interest you, I'm sure. Her words are calm, but she's gone quite still. What's he doing here? He has something up his sleeve, I know it. May we pass? Of course, but first a question one traveler to another. There was a falling star that landed here not too long ago. I was wondering if you knew anything about it. I don't trust them, Algern hisses in your ear, but loud enough that Calistege can hear too. Any friends of hers is a cheat, a killer, or both. What does that say about you, dear? She gives Algern a venomous smile. Killer or not, Quiro is not a man who can be trusted with unvarnished truth. Tread lightly. So, we can do several things here. Let's ask him about his scars. Nice scars, how'd you get them? Two things are more dangerous than death in this world, he says, his smile widening. Asking impolite questions of strangers and playing with Numenera you don't fully understand. My error was in the latter category, and I've grown more careful since. So, where did this star land? Well, if I knew that, I wouldn't be reduced to harassing noble travelers. I never saw it, you see. My employer did, and thought, who is the most trustworthy team I can send at a moment's notice? Luckily, they were on another assignment. We were interested and weren't too drunk yet, so... What interests you about this star? How kind of you to ask, Quiro says, clasping his gloved hands together. So few people are interested in the tangled motivations of paid explorers. He spreads his arms as if holding the sky and continues. The world is littered with ruins and fascinating secrets. Trouble is, anyone can claim them. But when something falls from the sky, that's rarer, and a man can make his name off such a find. He pauses, then adds, we're also being paid quite handsomely. That helps. Enough chat, I think, Quiro says, and there is no humor in his smile now. Where is the falling star? So I'm going to lie and say, I don't know. But we're going to make Calistege tell the lie. Quiro studies you for a long moment before sighing. All right, well, do at least let us know if you spot anything interesting. I'd like to say we'd pay for the privilege, but if we were rich, we wouldn't be down here, would we? According to his thoughts, if she's not telling the truth, then she's a fantastic liar. Guess I was wrong. Nice thinking, kid. That would have been a fiasco. You figured out why they were here, right? I knew I couldn't trust Calistege. This is the last time I make that mistake. Yeah, they were ambushing anyone who walked by. Sure, kid. Do you see them ambushing anyone else? They were waiting for us, and no one else. Someone sold us out. He points discreetly at Calistege. Buddy, there's literally no one else here. So your argument doesn't really work. Calistege, excuse me? Are you suggesting that I had something to do with Quiro's plans? Oh, I cannot abide by his rabid paranoia a moment longer. Are you suggesting you didn't? An old friend of yours just happens to be waiting for us, armed and outnumbering us as we return from the greatest find the reef has seen in years? It's too convenient for me. Too convenient by far. Oh, I'd forgotten how much audio there is in this. My throat is actually getting sore from talking so much. Of all the idiotic paranoid delusions, you really believe this, don't you? You really believe that I'd use a half-wit like Quiro to stab you in the back rather than do it myself. You see, kid, she'll stab you in the back first chance she gets, most likely in your sleep. He throws up a hand, forestalling Calistege's retort. Look, I don't care. Fact is, I can't trust you anymore, and I wonder why I ever did. This is the last we traveled together. I've got enough to worry about without having to watch my back 28 hours a day. He turns to look at you. Are you coming or what? You really gonna walk away from each other over this? Oh, this is just the last needle that crushed the Anine. You haven't seen 1/10 of her depth, not 1/20th. She's a backstabbing bitch, and this mess here only proves it. Always a paragon of class, Algern. If I did have any interest in betraying you, do you really think I would need Quiro's help? Yet this is the thanks I get for coddling your pain for coddling your pain-rattled, judgmental weakness for so long. I've had enough. She turns to you. Child, I'm happy to guide you, but I will not walk another step with this paranoid buffoon. Finally, something we agree on. Kid, she'll chop off your head and spit down your throat. I'll get you where you need to go, and I'll let you sleep at night to boot. It's up to you. So the question is, who do we want to travel with? Do we want to travel with Calstige, the woman who seems to be pretty intelligent? Or do we want to travel with Algern, who seems to be some kind of mercenary? Or we can say fuck you to both and decide not to travel with either. Go ahead and send me a message. What do you think I should do? So we're trying to decide, do we want to travel with Calstige, do we want to travel with Algern, or do we want to say fuck you to both and not travel with either? So go ahead and send me your answers. Of course, if no one responds to me, then I'll just have to make my decision. Okay, I see that Hala thinks we should travel with Calstige. And Deos says Calstige as well, so alrighty, I'd rather travel with Calstige. Right, well if you want me, and she doesn't sell you for parts, you can find me in the underbelly, but not with her. She'll sell you for parts the first chance forget it, it's her choice, not my problem. I'll let you know what you've missed, Algern. I'm sure you won't be missed, that is. She links her arm possessively into yours. Let's go, child. We have a world to conquer!
Of course. Ready.
I think if it's alright with you guys, my throat is actually really starting to hurt. I had forgotten just how much dialogue there is in this. If you'd like, we can continue to play, and I'll just, like, kind of abbreviate what they're saying. Or if you'd rather, we can swap over to KOTOR 2. What would you guys like to do? While that's going on, I'm just going to save the game. I'm just kind of walking around to unlock stuff. think if it's alright with you guys, I'm going to swap over to KOTOR 2. I don't have to do nearly as much talking. So I'll go ahead and turn off the stream for a minute, because I have to change consoles. Did we want to take a 5-minute break, or did we just want to jump right into it? Okay, I think I'll go ahead and just jump right into it, so give me a few moments to get the console swapped over.